but just seeing how much Crossworlds is like really trying to gas itself up, it's just making me so happy, and like it makes me feel like fulfilled. Like we're finally gonna get a good game in the modern day that people are gonna truly appreciate because I didn't know how wrong I was.
Dear Diary, it's been 4 months since I've been able to give a decent report on Sonic Racing Crossworlds. It feels like an eternity stuck in this barren wasteland of comp slop, maintaining the ever-growing itch to experience the joy of passing through a travel ring. The endless cycles of ranked and Marvel rivals or having to witness Killer and Dead by Daylight are taking their toll in my sanity. I yearn for the days to come when riding on an extreme gear in Metal Harbor are no longer a pipe dream. I long for the embrace of... Yeah, let's get to it.
Since the time that Sonic Racing Crossworlds was announced, more details about the game have been coming out and showing us what to expect in the full package, and it's been building up to be quite the game. If you go on Twitter, I don't think you could find a more wayward response to that statement, but I digress. A lot of the core mechanics and features of the game have been revealed, which I will discuss in this video, as well as what I hope or would like to see, since there's still some stuff to be shown before release. I also hope that not too much is shown right after this video drops, since I don't want it to age poorly in the span of 2 days, but let's get into this anyways. Ever since the beta dropped, the impressions of this game have been looking pretty great. People were loving the gameplay, testers were giving really good reviews, the music was and it was getting spotlights at game shows. Then at Summer Games Fest, we got an insane trailer that showed crossovers from Sega franchises. I felt vindicated, like I said Miku could be in the game, that's all me! We have car customization and the extreme gears, which easily trumps any form of versatility with your vehicle choices in any Sonic racing game, period. It's not just part customization like Mario Kart 8 too. You can color code them, give decals, the whole shebang. It's pretty fleshed out stuff here. Compared to literally any other game, it eclipses them in that factor alone. The roster is also the strongest of any Sonic racer, and all the Sega reps are free, so it has a lot of baked in content for the future. Stage selection is pretty solid too. 24 base tracks with a 15 Crossworlds makes for plenty of opportunities to mix and match stages. Like I said, the package looks insane. Now gang, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I may have said some things in the last video about this topic that were a bit premature to say the least. I'm genuinely happy that we're getting both these games. I'm gonna play the hell out of both of them. Like, I'm gonna have fun with both these games, but I lied. I'm sorry. Look, the fact of the matter is, I just don't really care for Mario Kart World. I don't know what changed within me about the game, but it just doesn't do it for me. I think it's because there's no 200cc and I just prefer the more frantic energy that 8 Deluxe had, but yeah, I have no interest in the game as it stands. It's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination, hell no. It's light years ahead of the previous installments mechanically and actually has some sauce to its movement now, but by and large, it's just not my style. Crossworlds, on the other hand, is where it's at for me. Ever since that Summer Games Fest trailer dropped and more gameplay footage has been dropping about the game, I haven't been more excited about a game in recent memory. I'm truly getting All-Stars Racing Transformed vibes, and I made it clear that game is my go-to racer now. Of course, I've been saying all this without addressing the elephant in the room. When the Games Fest trailer dropped, so did the prices, and well... Now listen. The $70 tag discussion has been run into the ground at this point on just about any platform when talking about the game. It's almost universally criticized, which I can understand, but I think a lot of the time we're devaluing what this game has to begin with. Granted, Sonic Twitter makes just about any discussion miserable outside of ironic agenda posting. Does this mean it's void of criticism? Hell no. I don't think anyone's inherently wrong for not buying the game or criticizing it. The price is quite steep, especially given the history of these types of games, so holding it to a high standard is perfectly understandable, but I also don't think it's called for to discredit the game entirely and straight up lie about stuff like the game being $90, which only applies to the digital deluxe. See me? I have a job. I get money. Therefore, based on my judgment of the footage and what has been laid out for the game, I believe buying the game is a worthwhile investment for an eager beaver such as myself. Still though, I do agree with some notions such as the animations needing a bit of work as well as some general gameplay tweaks. I think my biggest gripe with the game right now is that there's no apparent trick failing, which is one of the defining signals of skill expression and timing in the other games, since you really had to gauge and manage your airtime to risk bigger boosts or play safe and do less tricks for guaranteed boosts. I definitely hope that makes an appearance somehow or something to that degree, but I doubt it. I also think the speed should be cranked up just a tad bit since it seems a bit slow compared to Transformed, especially with how many speed options we have. I don't think raising it would do a whole lot, but supersonic speed seems to be fine either way, especially with how chaotic this game's looking even after the item nerfs, which, you know how crazy the items gotta be to get nerfed? This is the same series where one of the games had items moving at light speed nuking you from miles away. The extreme gears are also another point of contention because based off of the footage, they don't really seem all that different from the karts, functionally speaking, but maybe there's a bit more to them. Personally, I haven't played the Riders games, so I can't gauge how much of a difference there is, but it is a bit of a bummer it doesn't go the extra mile to adhere to the source material. Another notoriously discussed aspect of the game is the music, which I initially was pretty harsh to as well. Some of the songs in the beta build did sound pretty rough, but as of recently, they've seemed to get pretty clear tune-ups, and some of the new songs as a whole are just sounding like bangers. Like you hear this?
Too slow.
Soundtrack's looking up to be pretty solid when it's all said and done, and hopefully it helps beat the Sonic music is falling off allegations because come on bro. Let's be serious for a second. Are we gonna act like Shadow Gens didn't just drop? And guys, come on. The main theme is not that bad. At first it sounded a little iffy with the vocals to me, but the instrumental and melody are pretty solid. It's actually starting to grow on me personally, and I've seen some people come around to it as well. And are we gonna act like songs like Fist Bump and Speak With Your Heart didn't already exist? Let's not move the goalpost here. I've seen how some of y'all gas these songs up. So those are my sort of thoughts on the game right now as it stands, but I thought I'd make a bit of a wish list as we wait for the game to come out, since I really can't wait for the release. I figured I'd sort of go through the Sonic series and look at potential stages they could borrow. As it stands, we know of 11 out of the 24 tracks and 11 out of the 15 Crossworlds, which is pretty interesting proportionally speaking. Granted, some of these haven't been given dedicated snippets or spotlights, but they can be seen or have been leaked. An interesting thing about the stages in this game so far is that I don't think there's been any representation of the classics shown so far. Granted, there weren't that many tracks in the previous games, but there was at least Sky Sanctuary and Transformed. I wouldn't be too hung up over it since I don't think they would fit as much as set pieces from, say, the Dreamcast era onwards. I would say something like Stardust Speedway from Sonic CD or Slap in the Sky Sanctuary stage in there would be fine enough to represent classic Sonic. Onto the Dreamcast era, which is where I think the true potential begins. Sonic Adventure 1 has some decent candidates, with obvious answers like Speed Highway in there, maybe Emerald Coast. It already has a confirmed stage in Sand Road, which is a sort of reimagining of Sand Hills, so there probably won't be many if any more from the game. Hear me out though. Imagine a crossworld of ruined Station Square and you either had to fly through the city or you swim across the water while you dodge perfect chaos attacks. Ooh, don't tell me you don't see the vision there. Sonic Adventure 2 already seems to have a decent presence with Metal Harbor being a track, as well as Radical Highway, which we never managed to see in the footage myself, but the screenshot I've been seeing a lot, so that's pretty cool. I'm down for Radical Highway. I think we have good tracks already. I do recall there being racetracks on the Arc and Transformed and maybe TSR, but I didn't play that game, so I wouldn't really remember. Sonic Heroes is an interesting case since we've had Ocean View and Roulette Road slapped into literally every racing game up to this point, though TSR apparently has Final Fortress, which is pretty cool. And they haven't changed things up for this game, which is a darn shame because I really think it could have some nice stages. I think a stage like Egg Fleet or Rail Canyon would be insanely cool in this engine. I don't really think Shadow's game would have much to offer since the set pieces in that game are mostly uninteresting or they're callbacks to existing areas. For example, Westopolis would probably be a bit too similar to Radical Highway, and the many stages aboard the Ark have already been represented before. Maybe the digital circuit type of tracks would be pretty decent if done well, but apart from that, I'd say this one's a bit of a blank slate. On the other side of the spectrum, we have Sonic 06, which is insane to me that we have had some form of representation, aside from Silver. We can talk about how the game is a steaming pile of doo-doo garbage all day, but the actual locales are some of the most memorable in the series, I'd wager. Crisis City would be a really cool stage. Once again, we gotta see the vision here. Could you imagine a Kingdom Valley track? The stage already has a water section like in Shadow's campaign in both 06 and Gens. And bro, could you imagine flying through the upwards waterfall in those graphics? It would go absolutely insane. Aquatic Base would be pretty dope by virtue of the music being phenomenal. I think now would be a good time to transition into the handhelds and stuff like Riders. Honestly, I highly doubt we'll be getting anything from the Advanced series, which is unfortunate because Advanced 3 in particular, no bias whatsoever, has some pretty cool stages like Ocean Base and Chaos Angel. Not to mention, the Battle series has, the Battle series in particular, I more so think that they would probably use the character Emerald, which I'd be surprised if they didn't bring him in at some point because he was in the Shadow Gens opening not opening cutscenes, but you know, he was in the movie. So the fact that they brought him back recently, I feel like it would kind of be a waste for him to not show up in maybe some post-launch DLC. I mainly brought the handhelds up since Water Palace from Sonic Rush is in the game, which certainly has an interesting song choice.
That is not
Hideki. Sky Babylon from Rush Adventure would be pretty cool, etc. Now here's where we get to Riders. Like I've said before, I haven't played the game, so I don't really know about the tracks as a whole, but from the aesthetic, it looks like any given track would make for a really interesting candidate. As far as I know, there's 2 Crossworlds from the Rider series in White Cave and Metropolis Speedway, but we'll probably get one main track to round it out. Now on to a very interesting thing about the game, that being Sonic Unleashed. Now, I don't know if I've said this on record, but Sonic Unleashed is my favorite Sonic game and one of my favorite games of all time. And I don't know what was going on at Sonic Team in the marketing process for this game, but they have been glazing the hell out of Unleashed as far as we've seen. So far, there's been 3 stages that aren't Spagonio. Like what did I do to deserve this? Where was this energy for Unleashed when I was growing up? On top of this, the Werehog is a playable character? Like what? I was already super happy with the roster, but I'm a Werehog main through and through. Sonic Colors, I believe, has Sweet Mountain as well as Starlight Carnival being a Crossroads, so I think that's fine. Lost World seems a bit too generic for stuff other games couldn't do better, I think, and a similar case with Forces, though Mystical Forest wasn't a bad pick, I don't think. Frontiers is weird since the islands themselves I don't think have much to work with, but we've seen Cyberspace be a Crossworld in the leaks, so that's fine enough for me. And speaking of leaks, now that the stage speculation is over, onto another point of contention within this game, that being the roster. The base roster itself is fine. I don't know why people are calling it the bare minimum when it has just about every member of the Sonic cast that aren't too obscure, so while more would have been nice, it's far from the bare minimum in my opinion. The DLC lineup of this game has been rolling out in terms of reveals, and we finally have confirmation of SpongeBob. That's right, SpongeBob himself is in the game, which would have been cooler to know had he not been leaked a while back. Though, along with him, he brought TMNT and Avatar, which in my opinion is a bit lame. I understand they're Paramount, so the deal was easy to make, but half the past being Nickelodeon when the very first wave was Minecraft feels a tad underwhelming. Granted, if the game does well, we get more chances for crazy crossovers, plus we still have the last 2 waves that haven't been leaked at all, so now we're back to being in the dark. Though, hear me out on a character pick. Minecraft Steve is owned by Microsoft. Of course, this means there's some amicable terms to be met here, but you know who else is owned by Microsoft? Crash Bandicoot. I'm just saying, Crash is another platform icon. He has his own kart racer series too. It feels like a no-brainer, no? I do think Crash is pretty likely to take one of the 2 remaining waves, but it could be anyone really. Depends on how far they want to go. What I really wanted to talk about was the free content coming out alongside the season pass, or what I like to call them, the free 13. If we run it back to my previous video, if you were to add someone like Kiryu from Yakuza, Akira and Jackie from Virtual Fighter, Super Monkey Ball, like Shinobi, all these different Sega franchises, even Hatsune Miku, because apparently she's owned by Sega, or part of her. I basically called 2 of the 3 Sega reps in Miku and Ichiban. Granted, it's not Kiryu, but I'll take my win. I wonder if any of the free 13 will be Sonic reps from stuff like the IDW comics, since in the initial SpongeBob leak, there was concept art of Extreme Gears belonging to Tangle and Whisper, I believe, which could be huge for that section of the fanbase. I'd make some safe assumptions and say that shoe-ins for the remaining 13 are characters like I from Monkey Ball, Jet from Jet Set Radio, Knights, especially because of the leaks, Akira from Virtua Fighter, maybe Axel from Streets of Rage. Another one of my hopes for the game is that new content such as racetracks aren't limited to the season pass and their IPs, since I think that would be a pretty big missed opportunity. While I don't think every character in the free 13 should have their own stage, I do think they should at least have a couple for the ones in there altogether, especially to push that Crossworlds title, as they did say that stages from the Sega universes would be in here. Throw in a Memento stage in there for Joker, maybe for I take a page from his original games, and maybe throw in a Crossworld for the Space Colony stage from Monkey Ball 2. I really like space stages if you couldn't already tell. A Bayonetta stage like the Clock Tower, I don't know if that's a stage, I haven't played the game. You get the picture, right? I think it'd be a bit of a robbery to have the Sega characters join the roster if we don't get samples of at least the worlds they inhabit with this game's premise. So yeah, that's overall like a kind of roundup of what we got in with Crossworlds. My thoughts on it and what I want to see out of the game when it comes out, because don't get me twisted, I couldn't be more excited for this game. Not a day goes by where I don't think about getting my hands on a release day to play as the Werehog. While there are areas of the game that could be improved, especially for the price point, I still see great potential within it and value. I guess we'll see just how poorly this video will age as the rollout for the game continues and the post-launch content drops come in, but I would love to be proved wrong or right depending on what comes up in the future. But that's enough out of me. Thanks to you guys for watching and take care.